So when it's time to get it back to amplify shell. So now we show how to pop a gun and develop a dope process to pop it.
And we are live. Look at that.
You're listening to episode 144 of the infamously famous PHP Ugly podcast. I am one of your humble hosts, Eric Van Johnson. With me, almost on a weekly basis. He may not be allowed within 150 yards of a school, but we allow him next to us, Thomas Rideout.
Hey!
Hey! And with me as well, ironically enough, not allowed within 150 feet of a magic shop, don't ask, my good friend, John Congdon.
Happy Pi Day.
Happy
Pi
Day! We almost have the numbers in our episode.
Almost.
If it was last week, we would have nailed it, right? I mean, they wouldn't have been in order, but they would have been there.
Yeah, that is
Yes.
true.
Happy
Even though I said
Friday.
the wrong, well, I said the wrong numbers last week at the opening, so this could be 143.
Did you
That
listen
works.
Did you listen to last week's? I edited it,
course.
so you said the right number. You said it's episode 143.
So it's just all on me to screw things up then.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I cleaned it all up. I left Thomas's mistake in at the end, just to remind everybody that Thomas makes mistakes, but
Rarely, but it happens.
No,
It's nice.
on
Nice when it's
regular
recorded.
occasions.
how's everybody's week?
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Sure.
Fucking terrible.
See, it's always terrible, so I was trying to change it up a little bit by saying it was fantastic.
This is among friends. I can't lie to you guys.
Let's
Holy
hear it.
shit. Well, let's open with you guys had a meetup this week. So I want to hear about that before I just start into my whole depressing saga.
Let's see.
I heard it was well.
I wasn't there.
Yeah. Neither John nor myself made it to this month's meetup, so we had somebody else run it for us. but I heard it went very well. It was a
But
presentation.
started late. Started late.
Yeah, it started a little late, but they did a talk on queuing and PHP, and there were some good conversations.
One I would have liked to have seen, but did not make it. Sorry, Maxim.
So we have some
Well,
good news before
okay.
you start dragging us through the
I'm
mud.
excited.
We've gotten some confirmations. People are getting their reward packages. The people from let's post them up. Our patrons from Patreon
You'll note that
are.
my name is not on there.
It's not. I felt really bad too because I
Oh,
did. Well, no, the reason I felt bad is because I did send out an extra care package to somebody who's helped us in the past, and I've been long time. Yeah, I've been promising him for a while. I'd send him some swag, and that was T.J. Miller, and yeah, so he posted his tweet that he got his, and I'm like, yeah, damn it, I forgot to send Thomas his. I remember TJ's. It was funny because I went to Patreon, pulled down the list. We had to do the whole continental U.S. I was filtering people out, and I'm like, oh yeah, since I have the assistant putting together these packages, let me add TJ's name to that so that she'll put together one for TJ as well. And she'd done that, and I totally forgot to add you, Thomas. I feel like such a jerk.
it's okay. I'm very easy to forget.
No, you're not. You're always high on the list. Okay, so I have a lot to talk about. I don't know. Do you want to go first, Thomas? Because it sounds like you have things you want to get off your chest.
Well, this week was going to be my presentation on GraphQL, and I got 23 slides into the presentation just about understanding the schema as it's been published by Facebook. So pretty deep into 30 minutes of just schema explanation, and realized I've got 3 days left to get this whole thing wrapped up, and I don't have an example application. I don't have anything practical to show. All of this is just text on a page that doesn't do anything. Not the most helpful. So I started spinning up a project running Laravel, Lighthouse, Vue, and Tailwinds, and realized, I don't know Vue and Tailwinds as well as I wish I did right now.
Well, you don't need it for GraphQL. It's not an interface thing.
Well, because of how it works, you don't want to just query GraphQL from inside your application. You want JavaScript or an external app to query it. It's meant for APIs.
Right, exactly.
So I wanted some nice way of showing it off, not just a Postman query or anything like that. Especially because a lot of the features in Lighthouse are very, very nice for pagination and for things like that. Stuff that you really visually want to show off.
Okay.
So it just, I could have given the presentation, but it wasn't up to my standards. So instead of giving I'm working on that part too. So instead of giving the presentation, I summoned a bomb cyclone on all of Colorado.
I didn't know you wielded such powers.
I do. It's mostly panic-driven magics. Bomb cyclone, 94-mile-per-hour gusts, trees knocked over in our neighbors' yards, and fences blown into the street, and it's crazy. I mean, if you see the pictures from it, you'll understand. It's been totally nuts here, which means that I'm now on my third day of the kids not having school.
Holy smokes!
Yeah. They didn't go to school Wednesday, didn't go to school today, and they're not going to go to school tomorrow because the streets are just ice. It's not safe to travel. So that's
That is
interesting.
fun.
Yeah. Now, one of my kids was already home from school for 5 days because he was suspended. So that was interesting.
So,
Had to.
does the town you're in, do they have sirens for stuff like that, or is it just no clue is coming, and next thing you know,
And
you're
everyone
being
just
blown
tells
around?
everyone else. And then you can see, like, we went out Tuesday night, the wife and I, and you could see the storm coming over the mountain. You could see that it was, 8 hours away. It's just watching these giant clouds building up at the peaks and starting to spill over. So that's our weather system. But yeah, it's been a nightmare of a week, just with the logistics of everything.
Oh. That's not too bad.
Well, my son now has a court appointment. That's.
I'm not sure if that's something we want to broadcast or not, but
I
I'm
cleared it
sorry.
with the wife.
What's going?
He found marijuana at school, and instead of turning it in, he was asking his friends what to do, and a teacher saw. So.
Yep, that's
he's in
no.
trouble. I had to speak with the police officer just to verify that it wasn't my marijuana, that it was marijuana that he found.
They verified that?
Yeah, he showed it to me. I was like, oh yeah, that's not mine. Mine's all leafy and purple.
Thomas just starts smoking in front of the officer. That doesn't taste right.
This is sour diesel. I haven't had that in months.
This is not Kush. All right, well that's not that.
But I've got lots of extra time to work on my presentation. We have pushed the meetup to next month, so I'm excited to be able to build. I'm excited to be able to build a real Vue Tailwinds app. It'll be my first one, and see how it comes together.
Nice.
What's your thought on any thoughts on GraphQL yet?
It's really cool.
Yeah.
It is a whole language on its own. So to do what you want to do with it, or to even know what you want to do with it, you have to read a lot. Because it has so much flexibility, so much functionality.
Yeah, I think I honestly have not read all the specs for GraphQL, but I did dive pretty deep into the Lighthouse documentation, and of course that abstracts away a lot of the complexity for you if you're using Laravel. And I tell you what, that Lighthouse implementation is just so solid, so sweet. We're actually looking. I played with it for a while. Yeah, I tried not to get too on board with it too quickly. But we are actually now adding it to a project we're working on. And
it makes spa apps look much easier to make.
Yeah,
Have you experienced that at all?
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's going into it. That's kind of our philosophy around it, because this app that we're building is an internal app that really won't be touched by the outside world. So it's really directed at just building the spa piece a little quicker and a little easier, where the front end developers won't have to reach out to the back end developer every time they want a new endpoint. They just have to, as long as it's a resource they can query, then they can just query it however they want to query. But that's what I love about it. It's like, it's not only a spa thing, it's anything, right? Even public APIs, once you get it configured, yeah, it's just like, here's the data I'm offering you. Ask for whatever you want. I'm not going to make you go to 5 different endpoints to get 5 different sets of data.
Now, the thing I've had trouble with is that once you get the schema pulled in and you start writing out your lighthouse type schema,
Mm-hmm.
the PHP Storm doesn't like how flexible
No,
the
no,
lighthouse
it's
version is.
yeah. Well, just that YAML file you're talking about, the
No,
lighthouse config file.
the schema dot uh,
Oh, right,
sch- the dot schema files
right.
or dot
The schema.
GraphQL schema.graphql. It
Yeah,
has a lot
yeah.
of
It doesn't.
directives and
It,
stuff that
yeah,
PHP Storm doesn't know about.
it just doesn't understand how to It's a format. It just doesn't understand how to process. Yeah.
Well, you can create a GraphQL schema that PHP Storm can understand and parse because there are all of the directives in Lighthouse are valid to GraphQL, and there is a GraphQL plugin for PHP Storm. The issue is that the schema definition is like an XML schema definition. It's gigantic.
Yeah.
So it's, 30 pages long, and you have to say, okay, you're allowed to use the equals operator here, but not here, and this is where it's required, but not required. And I just haven't been able to find one that somebody has already written that is GraphQL compatible for PHP Storm.
Yeah. It's just a matter of time, probably.
Yep.
But, so we talked last week a little bit after the Larrycon Online, being asked about this in Discord as well, about Frick's demonstration on event sourcing. He did an implementation around event sauce, and we had been working with event sourcing for a while, and we had started going down the path of another kind of framework called Proof. We had the developers who were doing a lot of the event sourcing kind of reevaluate the direction we went in, because it's early enough in the project. It would be pretty easy to pivot if we needed to. And they looked at Frick's implementation again. And I think everybody kind of agrees that from a real basic level, if you're looking to get into event sourcing, it's a good approach to take. We have some requirements around event sourcing, specifically the ability to play back events and how they get played back. And with event sauce, there's a lot of mentality of, well, you can just do that yourself. I think I understand the mentality, to be honest with you. I personally haven't had a deep dive with our developers on this yet, but I mean, in my most simplistic understanding of events at this point, because the developers who are working on this have far surpassed what the little bit of research I've done with event sourcing. But in my head, I understand where event sauce is coming as far as roll your own, because if you stored the event, you have the event and all the data. So if you ever have to play back, you just have to figure out how you're taking those events out of the event store and then reprocessing them through your system. It shouldn't be that difficult to do. But of course, I say that as somebody who's never done it, right? So it's easy for me to say that. Anyways, with Proof, there was already some functionality around playbacks and things like that. So they're continuing down the path of Proof for the more complex environment. Whether or not we use Proof across the board for all of our projects is still kind of up in the air. We're still kind of having that conversation. But the short of it is the event sourcing stuff that Freck demoed and his packages. Yeah, I mean, they're a great starting point. If you're looking to get started with the event sourcing and you need to find where square one is, that's a good square one. Really, event sourcing is so specific to everybody's implementation and what it is they're looking to get out of it. It's going to be hard to have a one size fits all solution. So yeah, I mean, if you're looking for square one, if you want to if you want to get into event sourcing, that's a good place to start. But if you have specific requirements, look a little deeper into event source, look a little deeper into proof. There's some others out there as well, and just make sure that though the direction you're going in meets all the requirements that you have.
I know another developer that worked on event sourcing on a separate project. I don't think he's using any sort of event library. I really need to talk to him more about that. Friend of the show, Tim Lytle, by the way. I know he's recently done it, so just curious why he would, what his reasoning for not using a library was.
He enjoys punishment. Yeah, I don't know what his reason would be. But at the same time, if you think of the most simplistic implementation of event sourcing, it probably wouldn't be that hard just to roll your own.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. So
it probably depends on how deep you're getting into it. If you're projecting to lots of different places versus just keeping it all in MySQL within the same database.
Right. I think that's one of the big requirements as well. Yeah. Yeah. Daryl hears me. He's down with the proof. Yeah. But Dev Circus, yeah, I mean, feel free to dive into it. It's fun stuff, I tell you. It's definitely changing my viewpoint of data, where it used to be, hey, whatever's in the database is in the database. I don't really know how it got there, but that's what's there. To, being able to prove, why that data is there, why that balance is that balance. Is like, it's one of these things, like once you start thinking about it, you don't want to not do it that way. Like you always want to be able to prove, okay, here's why the balance is at the balance, because I have all these events here that when you run through these events, they equal that total. And that's
well, the thing I loved is when we demoed it to a client and we thought it was really cool that we had all the events stored separately, wipe out the transaction table and say, look, you can rebuild it. And they're like, well, how do you know you rebuilt it correctly? And why would you rebuild it? And all we were trying to demo was that is capable. That we're capable of rebuilding it. You can't get to event, 100 unless you played the first 99. And for some reason, that simple demo turned into this whole bigger question.
Yeah.
See, that what you have to do to mitigate that is take it even bigger and say, well, given the nature of quantum computing, there's no assurances until we reach paired qubits that any data is correct.
We need you on these calls, Thomas. We really do. Yeah.
I can blur the lines so quickly between what we're talking about. It's just, well, how do I know if this data is correct? Well, according to Einstein's theory of relativity, there is no way to know that this is correct. However, given Hawking's knowledge of information lost through a black hole, there is evidence that some information can be lost and then transferred to a different dimension, a different reality. So, were there a case where in an alternate reality, someone's server matched your server and got too close to a black hole, there could be a consistency issue with the data.
Why did you ask him?
But see, we check for that. We have, at our office, we have graviton wave detectors. So that should be mitigated.
There you go. Well, I pointed out quickly that, one, we wouldn't destroy the transaction table the way he did it. That was just an example of replaying data. And that is really useful if we want to replay the data somewhere else to do other analysis. And that seemed to calm him down a little bit.
And what's funny is, like, before I even did the demo, I told him, we would never do it this way. This isn't what we would use it for. We have other methods of recovering databases, but we're going to do this just to show you that it can be done. And
see, I like that. We would never do it this way. All right, let's go do it this way.
Pretty much. So, but it was cool. I mean, it was cool that you're able to play the transactions back, and I understood their question of, how do you know that the transactions are correct, the events are correct? It's like that's a slippery slope. I mean, you're really opening Pandora's box at that point.
Well,
But
yeah, sell them on the blockchain solution.
we don't have to
That
sell
came
them
up
on
in the same
blockchain.
conversation.
Yeah, we don't have to sell them on blockchain. They want blockchain. They really want blockchain, and yeah,
We
we're,
talked about it in the last show.
yeah, we'll probably get there with them, but yeah, it's
Okay. Is there such a thing as an immutable database?
Well, yeah.
I mean,
The archive
in
within MySQL, the archive engine isn't immutable.
I'm wondering if there's like a whole engine that's immutable.
Archive.
well, I mean, like CouchDB. I mean, CouchDB, you can't ever change an actual record. You can only change the event. Like CouchDB almost does event sourcing on their records. So whenever you
Right.
change a record, it captures all that information of what was
Captures a
changed.
change log instead of
Right.
updating a record. Yeah.
So I mean, that's actually one of the features I really like about CouchDB, and one of the arguments one of our developers keeps bringing up about it.
But they only keep the history for so long, right? It's not
No,
endless
no,
history.
yeah, as far as I know, it's endless. I mean, I think you can configure it, but
Yeah, Google's big block.
because they're small little changes. I mean, they're just fractions of memory. All right, so
Gotcha.
I wanted to share some fun stuff with you guys. I told John a little bit about this. I'm pretty well known between the three of us as being more exploratory as far as like trying out new products and services.
Positions,
Sure
genders.
positions, lubes, flavors, all that. But I rarely stick
car
with any of them.
batteries.
I'll try them. I'll come on the show. We'll talk about them for a while, and then I stop using them. Rarely do I ever make fairly significant changes to my toolkit like I have probably over the last month. Probably the last time I've done this was when I went from using Vim as my primary development tool to PHP Storm. That's probably the last time I really changed anything of any significance. But I've done a lot of changing over the last month, and I wanted to share a few of the things with you guys. You guys ready for this? Because it's going to build up to something that I think you're actually going to like, Thomas. I promise.
There'll be a real climax to the end of it.
Well, I don't know about that, but okay. So it started about a month ago when we were going through the whole Facebook shenanigans and all that, and I tried to cut back over to Firefox as my browser, and I ran into all these little hiccups and issues and this and that. Ended up going back to Chrome. Was a little bummed about it, but I also found out that Firefox had that those containers for Facebook. So what I had done, I used an application launcher on my system. All Macs have them. I actually use a third party called Alfred, which I can go in there and configure. So I actually configured Alfred so that when I want to go to Facebook, I open up Alfred, I type in Facebook, I hit enter, and it actually opens up Facebook and Firefox in the Facebook container. So that was kind of my first step. I like that a lot because it makes going to Facebook a very intentional action. I was able to log out of Facebook everywhere else, and so that was kind of like my first siloing off some of my identity. And it was
what is a Firefox container? Because I've not heard of that.
So it's an extension. It's one of the recommended extensions in Firefox. I think they're building it into one of the upcoming releases. But what it does is when you go to certain sites, Facebook being one of them, it creates basically a tab just for Firefox, and it doesn't bleed that information out to your other tabs. So whatever you do
It's
in
like
that
incognito.
Right. But the good thing about it is when you relaunch Firefox, all your Facebook stuff is still in your Facebook tab. It just doesn't allow Facebook to track you from other tabs. It keeps all the Facebook stuff in that tab.
Through
That's
the
my
conventional tracking systems.
That's my understanding of it. So that was kind of the first thing I did. I'm like, all right, that's kind of cool. The next thing I did, because I really started wanting to limit my exposure on Chrome, and so I started thinking about all the what I was telling John. I call them focus apps, like the applications I use in Chrome that require like pretty much 100% of my focus. And I came across this app called Shift, and I think I tweeted about this. I'll put all links to these in the show notes as well. But what Shift was is I thought it was like an Electron app that was just going to be another browser. And yeah, it might be that, but
That's cool.
Yeah, Shift is kind of cool, because what it allows you to do is, first thing, it's easy for me always to get to where my mail is by tabbing through my apps. I don't have to tab through my browser anymore. But also in Shift, I'm able to. I have like our project management system on there. I have GitHub on there. Like again, all these applications that require my attention are on Shift now, and again, I've cleared those out of my browser, so they're not in my browser anymore. So kind of the same. Go ahead.
So I was just gonna say I've been using it too, and there are a lot of limitations on it as well. But
A lot? What would you consider a lot of limitations?
Keyboard shortcuts. I wish there were a lot more.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Between the apps, because I always kept like my Gmail as the first tab. It was a pin tab, so it was always there. My project management software was a second tab. So all I had to do was, with my keyboard, I could get to Chrome, and then within there, I could get to the proper window, and then from there, I could get to the proper tab, usually within 4 or 5 keystrokes. So with Shift, I can still switch over to Shift very easily, with the Command tab, but navigating within Shift is a pain in the ass.
Yeah, and I think I kind of like it that way because I'm not looking to spend a lot of time there. But yeah, I do wish there was a way to get from the applications like the project management application I have in here back to my email with, like you said, a keyboard shortcut. There just isn't an easy way of doing that.
Luckily, all the Gmail shortcuts still work. So
right
through your mail, archiving, deleting, all that still works pretty well.
Yeah. So that was nice because I can actually go a good portion of the day now and not even have a browser open. So
my mind was just blown finding out I can pin tabs.
Really?
Now I'm just pinning all my tabs.
Yeah, you could do that in Firefox too. By the way, that's like you could do that for like the last 10 years.
I probably should have known that, huh?
It's a useful thing.
Yeah, and the thing about the pin tabs, Thomas, is when you close your browser, you open your browser, all your pin tabs come back. They're always there until you close them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, and they don't have X's on them, so you don't accidentally close them. Oh.
Well, there you go, Thomas. You learned something.
Still, you can use a keyboard shortcut to accidentally close it, but
yeah. So then, I'm not done yet. So then I made a pretty drastic change. It took me about 2 or 3 weeks to really decide that this was the direction I was going to go in. But after using Evernote for probably 15 years, and I can't even tell you how much I have in Evernote. I mean, I have tons of information in Evernote. I think I finally made the switch over to another note-taking system called Notion, Notion. Excuse me. Again, it just had some features that I'd been looking for a long time in Evernote. And, like a perfect example was today, I was actually bouncing a question off of TJ Miller, and we were exchanging messages over Telegram, and I wrote up this big code snippet with like database migrations and stuff, and I tried to put it in Telegram, and it's just like, that looks horrible. And I could have gone over to a service like Gist or something and put it, but I just went ahead and put it in my Notion. I created a note for it and shared it publicly and sent it to TJ. And he even replied, he goes, "Oh, that's so much easier to read. Thank you." But it has like a lot of markdown ability, being able to do markdown and stuff like that. So I'm liking that. But the big thing that happened to me, so I felt like I needed to share those other ones because I really don't change tools a whole lot. And the fact that I changed so many within the last month was significant. But I have never pivoted so hard on a tool that I've been using for so long, so quickly. And it's a tool that I had already tried to pivot off once before, Chrome. But on Friday, I heard about a project called Brave, Brave, and it was a browser
Yes.
that's meant to have your security in mind. And I'm like, all right, let me give this a look. Figured I'd play with it for the weekend and not even worry about it. Well, come to find out that Brave is Chromium, right? It's a version of Chromium. So it's Chrome under the hood. So all your extensions and stuff still work. And I installed it Friday. Come Sunday, I realized that I was still only using Brave. Not only was I only using Brave, but I had already replaced it on all my mobile devices, my iPad, the only place I hadn't replaced it on was my desktop at the office. And I came in Monday morning, replaced it, and still to this day, there are a couple of shortcomings. There are a couple of things I've discovered but not enough to make me go back. Like I pivoted hard over to Brave, where that's now my browser. Like that's my default browser across all my devices now is Brave.
Now,
And
you may remember Brave from a previous story about a web browser that was collecting donations for YouTubers and keeping it.
was that Brave?
Yeah.
Really?
I am not a fan of Brave.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry.
Their business model is dubious at best.
Well, first
What-
thing, so in their defense, the any donation system that you participate in is off by default, and you have to opt in. So
for now.
okay, yeah, for now, yes, that's true. But I don't know. I like it. I mean, like if I open up my the biggest thing it does for anybody interested is all those extensions that you have to block, ad blocks and trackers and stuff like that. It kind of does as part of the browser now, and it's cool because whenever you open a new tab, it lets you know to date, how much. Like here at my office, if I open up my browser, it says I've saved 4 minutes and have blocked 700 trackers and 3,600 ads, and it had automatically upgraded me to HTTPS on 217 occasions, which means, I was going to an HTTP site and it automatically redirected me to HTTPS because it saw that there was a valid HTTPS site for it. So it's just some of the built-in functionality. Now, there is some trade-off with this. A couple things I noticed was one of the things I noticed is that my little media keys on my keyboard, where on my other browser, if I was playing Google Music, for example, I could pause with my keyboard. Doesn't seem to work with Brave. The big thing is, like in Google, where you sign into the browser, you actually sign into your browser and say, hey, this is my Gmail account, and that's what keeps all your stuff synced across all your computers. You don't do that with Brave. And so, which, if you only have one computer, is probably not that big of a deal. But for me, I use the whole, when I get home, I'll pull up a tab that I had on my desktop at the office. I use that a lot, and I don't have that functionality. So I'm adjusting to it. I'm having to remember that I have to save tabs I want to open at the house, and I usually throw them in my little to-do list. But that was probably the biggest thing. Is like, oh, this sucks. I really needed that tab in here. But besides that, I don't know. I'm liking Brave.
Did you import all of your bookmarks and cookies and everything when you installed it?
So bookmarks, yes, that was the only option you had to import. But what I discovered is I think it's using the same store for cookies and sessions as the Chrome browser did, because I'll hit sites for the first time in Brave and not have to log in.
Pretty sure that was an option when you first opened it. Was going through a whole import thing.
Oh, okay. Maybe I didn't pay attention. I noticed the bookmark import. Maybe I did import all of it. Maybe that's why that's working.
If you just went through and like next, then yeah, I think you just imported
probably.
everything.
Yeah, I am hardcore Brave now, and not looking back.
Yeah,
one of their
lately too.
Ah, cool.
One of their monetization strategies is having users mine currency, having a miner built into the browser, which was kind of my idea for Buscoin. If you look up Bravecoin, then you'll see a bit of a rundown on their intention to combine the blockchain into the browser.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the Basic Attention Token, and the idea is that you can enable advertising with a payoff to the consumer. So advertisers pay you to watch the ads in this BAT token.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, it's funny you should say that. I actually have that enabled. That's the one thing I enabled.
I haven't seen it's actually getting used by anybody.
I enabled it. Apparently I haven't generated anything.
For me, this is one of the big issues, is because they've got an ad blocker built into the browser, but their revenue model is allowing ads through if they pay in Batcoin. So it's an ad blocker, but it's an ad blocker at their discretion.
I'm going to open up my browser here, and I'll share it on the screen so you can kind of see what I see. Good, close all this stuff off. All right, let me share it on. Nope, that's not what I want to do. Get a good website up. All right, let me share it on OBS so you guys can see. I need to switch. We'll switch Firefox over to Brave. Where's Brave at? Here we go. All right. So this is the Brave browser. This is the whole browser here, and this is that Batcoin you were talking about here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what you need to do to actually. And again, this is the thing I opted into, because I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. Let me see what that's about. But yeah, I'm not sure how it works or how you get money, but yeah, it's there.
So actually, if you pull that back up, it'll tell you right there. So you can purchase tokens. You can just add funds. You can earn tokens from viewing ads, and occasionally you'll be offered free token grants from Brave.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that stressed about it. So here's that other thing I was saying. So this is a different. This is my laptop here, but so the numbers are different. I don't know what I said earlier, but like on this one, it says estimated time saved 7 minutes. Looks like 69 upgrades to HTTPS. So it's just I don't know. I mean, and like I said, it looks and feels just like Chrome. If I go over to preferences, I mean, I don't have that. There's a sync option that's experimental but it's just for bookmarks. I don't think it's for anything else. But
see, I mean, my big issue is just
oh,
that
you know what else you'd like about this? Check this out. Not only does it have incognito, it has. Wait a second, where's it at? Oh, where'd it go?
private window.
Well, it had private with Tor. Wait a minute, there's private.
Do you enable from within there?
There you go.
So
With
now
Tor there on the right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Just in case your internet's too fast, you want to slow it down some.
Yeah. So you have an incognito mode with Tor as well. I could have sworn I had enabled it by up here the last time, but yeah, I don't know. It's let me see. Maybe it's from here. Let me see. Here it is, right here. Open in private window. Open in private window with Tor. So you can actually Tor it if you want to. And like you said, it just slows things way the hell down. It's getting there. It's getting there.
Do people actually use Tor like consistently? Because the couple times I've tried it, like you said, it just way too slow.
I mean, I'll use it when I want to make sure I'm coming from different locations. I mean, that's the big thing about it. It hides your location, but you come from another location. So if I'm looking at like how a site is behaving from random places around the internet, I'll use Tor. But I mean, not really. I mean, it's slow as hell. It's so slow.
I'm curious to see if you stick with this.
The other thing that was in there was that DuckDuckGo. Do you use that, Eric? I thought I remember seeing you do that.
Yeah, so I've kept DuckDuckGo on the laptop for work for the desktop. I kept it on Google. I'm trying to give DuckDuckGo a solid attempt. You get very different search results. I'll be honest with you. It's a little jarring at first. The biggest thing I don't like about DuckDuckGo, and again, I'm only using it on my laptop, but the biggest thing I don't like about DuckDuckGo is in Google, you have the ability to filter your search results to posts within like the last year, last month, last whatever.
All the time.
Yeah, me too. I wish I could just default that to the last year. It's like, give me just the last year. I don't care about anything else. But in DuckDuckGo, oddly enough, you can only go back to the last month. Here, let me go back over here. So if you go over to if you go DuckDuckGo, you'll see I actually have some of my search options. So where it says anytime here, make this bigger for everybody. Where it says anytime here, of course, safe search is off. I do have it limited to the U.S. You only have anytime, past day, past week, past month. You don't have, for whatever reason, no past year.
You can't scroll down right there?
No. I mean, that's bizarre, right? It's like, why not the past year? So this is one of the biggest hangups I have with DuckDuckGo right now. That and the fact that the results
so different.
Yeah, the results are just so different. It's really weird. But yeah, I'm giving it a shot, checking it out, seeing. But I probably won't stick with that.
Just curious when I saw it.
Internet tool set of a real criminal. I mean, I'm getting suspicious of you just seeing that you're using DuckDuckGo and Tor and Brave behind 3 VPNs.
I actually have 2 VPNs on my machine.
He does.
I have a weird issue with one of them. An open VPN connection on my laptop only doesn't affect the desktop. Every time I connect to it or disconnect, my DNS is broken. I have to go to my network settings, either add or remove a DNS server, and then it works fine. Every single time.
So bizarre.
It's so annoying, and I'm like, how would somebody that doesn't understand networking deal with this? Like, you can't.
Yeah.
I happen to find a workaround that works for me.
Yeah, just stay on the VPN. I'm on a VPN right now.
I am too.
Yeah, but you have. I've noticed. I've gone to a couple of like coffee shops that flat out block VPNs. It kill me. And I would even be okay with it if the Wi-Fi wasn't like an open Wi-Fi. It's like, come on, man, give me something here, you know? What?
I've got a little bit of internet news. My internet connection news. I was hanging out with a friend of mine the other day, and he was telling me that he's got gigabit through Xfinity. And I said, well, that's strange. I asked for gigabit, and they said it wasn't available. That was when I moved in here. He said, well, they just added it as an option, and we're getting it for like $65 now.
God damn it.
So I called up Comcast. My current bill is $199.95 because I had the highest tier of internet service. It was 250 megabit, and I also had to pay an additional amount of money for unlimited. So when you buy it, they say unlimited internet, but it means unlimited internet is a trademark for
unlimited to a point.
Yeah, for 1 terabyte. So when I went over that limit twice in a row, I decided, yeah, I'll pay the extra money for actually unlimited.
Yeah, we do the same thing.
The fact that double the words just makes it funny.
That's I think that I don't know what it's actually called. It's called like UAT extra, or they had to come up with something that didn't have the word unlimited in it because their limited version already had unlimited in it. Anyways, I start chatting online with Comcast and say, hey, so you've got gigabit now, and looking at my bill, it would be cheaper if I upgraded to gigabit internet. And the lady says, yes. Like, okay, then let's do that then. And she says, okay. And I say, okay. And I do a speedtest.net run before I say go for it and afterwards. And lo and behold, I'm now maxing out my 24 channel cable modem at 300 megabit per second. And I'm saving $40 on my internet plan. And as soon as I go out and buy a $130 router that's got 32 channels, then I will be running at 1 gigabit at my house.
Well, you need more than that, we learned. So funny story. Of the DiegoDev people, I'm the spender. Like, I will go out, you know,
I know. I've seen it.
I'll tell John, I'm like, hey man, I'm buying an arcade machine. He's like, what? Why? No, it's a business expense. Trust me. But recently we were kind of in the same boat. Unfortunately, there wasn't the savings that you got. But John messaged me. He goes, hey, Cox has gigabit to the office now. Do we want it? I'm like, how much more is it? And he told me it was like, triple what we're paying or whatever. I'm like, I don't know. I haven't really noticed anything with what we have now. I think we're okay. He goes, okay, I'm ordering it.
It wasn't quite that bad, but yeah.
But what we learned, well, first thing, we had already suspected that, like a lot of the networking cable that we have in our office is older. They didn't replace it. It's just older networking cable. But even when we got the new modem installed, we had the guy from the cable company there, and he was running the tests. And every time we tried to go through our router, we had one of these Google Hub routers. We were getting like you were getting like 300 and something, and we're like, no, that's not good enough, man. So he eventually plugged in some machine directly to the cable modem and said, no, it's doing 850, 900, so that's good. He's like, we're only responsible up to the router. After that, it's up to you guys. So, first off, most of the people in the office, with the exception of John and myself, are on Wi-Fi, so it's not really that big of an impact to them, right? I mean, they're not going to have it. But what I ended up doing, so we had a Cat5 cable from the Google Hub to the router, directly to the router, no switches in between it or anything. And even with that, we were still at about 500 down. So I went out and got a Cat6 cable. I'm like, I don't know shit. I don't even know if that Google Hub is compatible with Cat6, but I'm gonna get it. And I come back to the office and I plug it in. Bam! I mean, it shoots right up to 700-800 down, and it's been humming along ever since. I'm sure if we replaced all the networking cable here, we'd probably get a gigabyte.
Well, that is something that I went through recently. I did a couple months ago, replace all the wiring, switches, and hubs to gigabit level.
Ah, there you go. So you're ahead of the game.
So I'm ready. I'm ready to just drop the router in and be happy with it.
Well, there you go. It's funny.
I'm also running the 5 gigahertz band Wi-Fi.
Yeah, we already talked about that. That doesn't mean anything.
Well, it's a lot faster.
Oh, the Wi-Fi you said. Oh, I thought you were talking about the. Yeah.
What the separate was when we moved in. So the wiring in the walls is brand new, but he asked us, "Do you just want Cat 5?" And I didn't know that there was that big of a difference between 5 and 6. And I was like, "Yeah, that's fine."
Yeah, I was in the same boat. I mean, I honestly didn't know it was even compatible. Like if we had to put in Cat 6 and we got a switch, I wasn't even sure if it was going to be compatible or not.
Yeah,
so.
it's just how tightly twisted the wires are inside the cable.
Really, is that the only difference?
Yeah, and some magnetic shielding.
Interesting.
The problem with internal wiring is you have to use plenum cabling for wiring in walls, because the normal Cat5 cable, it's sheathed in a plastic that if it gets hot, puts off toxic fumes. So whenever you're running it for, commercial purposes, you have to use the expensive plastic, and that cranks the price up super high. So just going from 5 to 6 on plenum cable, they'll screw you because they know that you're making a price point decision.
Yeah, well, even buying, I went to a hardware store and bought the Cat 6 cable, pre-done, and I mean, even that was like 3 times as much as the Cat 5. Which for one cable,
Monoprice, man.
Huh?
Monoprice.
What's that, a site?
Yeah, monoprice.com. You don't know about this?
No.
Any AV equipment, any cabling of any kind, you need to be buying it from here.
Okay.
You get 50 feet of slim Cat 5e. Oh, Cat 6a. 50 feet of it for $12.59.
Right. How much is 50 feet for Cat 5?
They don't even do Cat 5.
All right. Well, yeah. Yeah, I can already see 5 feet of Cat 6. Yeah, $4. Yeah, Yeah, that was about
It's-
what they're paying for, or that was about the price of the Cat 5 at the store.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of monoprice, as long as you don't care about how long it takes to get to you,
Really?
because
Yeah.
Wow.
it takes like a week and a half. They
Really?
ship it via snail.
God. What was that, John?
Been years since I bought from Monoprice, but I also just don't buy a whole lot of networking equipment.
I was not even aware that they have 3D printers. God.
Thomas, you still doing 3D printing?
You doing anything with your 3D printer, Thomas?
So I stopped doing much with the 3D printer, and then the computer that drove the 3D printer expired magnificently.
Okay.
And so I just haven't put the effort back into bringing the system back up to date and getting all my configuration, because it's months of configuration that I had on this thing, getting all the numbers precise and perfect and all the configuration values exact, and all of that just went up in a puff of smoke.
I have an office where I can put a 3D printer now. Although I'm not even that big on the 3D printers anymore. I want that laser cutters they have out now.
Laser cutters seem cool. I can
Those
think
are
of a lot
so
of things I'd like to do.
Yeah.
It's all about your imagination and your experience modeling things, and I have zero of both.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I think I'd get it, and I just wouldn't be able to do with it as that I want to do with it. Whereas
Yeah.
a laser printer, I could throw a DiegoDev logo on just anything.
Right, as long as you've got a vector for it, you can just start burning stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
How'd you get that tattoo? Well, use a laser cutter.
Laser cutter.
On accident. I've got a story that I read this. I did not believe it when I read it. And I don't think you guys will believe it either. It's part of our ongoing series, the latest in chat applications. Of course, everyone needs 100 chat applications. That's why the chat application manager shift was brought up in this program earlier. The hottest new chat app for teens is Google Docs.
Okay.
The argument
there's no more real time than that.
The argument here is that schools have monitored, restricted Wi-Fi access, and that kids are sitting on laptops working on Google Docs already, because that's what teachers are using in some schools. Mm-hmm. And there is a chat collaboration system built into Google Docs, or you can just spin up a new document and share it to your friends, and they can start editing it with you.
Yeah.
And this article absolutely claims this is an absolutely real thing that teenagers are doing. And having grown up in the era where every news station was telling parents what teens were doing, and they were always wrong, I was skeptical. So I contacted my daughter. And she confirmed, absolutely, she has friends that do this.
We don't really pass physical notes anymore, said Skylar, 15, who, like all the other students in this story, is identified by a pseudonym. Okay, well, why did you have to say that? Yeah. It doesn't surprise me.
This fascinates me. There are some teenagers out there, not the ones that my kids hang out with, but there are some that are just so damn smart.
Oh, I saw that one coming. That's hilarious.
Well, what was the old DOS protocol that used to send messages with?
Send.
It was funny because, like, you'd send it to somebody, they wouldn't know how to reply, so they'd yell at you across the room. Hey, how do
Yeah.
I reply?
Net send.
It's yeah.
I've caught myself on several occasions going off on my long-winded stories to my children about what computers were like when I was their age
Mm-hmm.
and how just basic functionality that they consider ubiquitous and everywhere was not invented until significantly after they were born.
Mm. My favorite
And
was
that
Wall on Linux machines.
What was it called?
Wall, where you just throw up to the console wall.
I'm not familiar with this one.
Jump on any of them. So if we're on two different TTYs and you do a wall, it's kind of like an admin message to everybody.
Huh. Was not aware of that one.
My favorite was Windows NT null sessions, where if the administrator wasn't 100% educated on how NT worked, then you could log in as nobody and have permission to all of their shared drives.
I don't think that was a thing on NT. I think that was a thing on Windows machines. I think that was the big thing with NT, is that was one of the ones that you couldn't log in without a password.
So I did it to NT and Windows 2000 machines all the time.
Really?
Null sessions were the most fun I had on the internet back in the day.
All right.
All right, I've got a special doom and gloom for you.
Okay. Does it justify having your? There you go.
It's for all the doom and gloomers out there that hate themselves and want to feel pain. It's wyag.thb.lt. And
So,
it
John,
is
this would be example of when you would use Tor. When you have Thomas just randomly saying letters as a URL for you to go to, you do that through Tor.
this is a walkthrough step by step on how to recreate the git command line in Perl.
And the
Everything.
reason for this, and why is this doom and gloom?
Well, it's doom and gloom because it's only for people who truly hate themselves. But the reason you would do this is because after writing the entirety of the git command line, you will know how git works at its very lowest level.
I know how Git works. I know enough of Git I need to get through the day. See what I did there? Boom,
Yes. But do you hate yourself? Because if you
I
hate
love
yourself,
myself.
then you don't know enough
I've been
about
caught.
Git yet.
I've been caught loving myself too often.
All right, now I know it's time to close this episode out.
Oh man!
I
Right.
had
that
so little. I had so little doom and gloom this week that there hasn't been a doom and gloom newsletter released.
Oh, you're a failure.
I know it's a lot of stuff came up yesterday.
So listen, if you're a Patreon and you're up in Canada, I'm working an angle with you guys. I'm gonna try to get you guys some swag. I got a good friend of mine coming for a visit. I'm gonna see if I can convince him into taking some swag back to Canada with him and mailing it for me. So you guys know. And Buttery, you're still on our radar too. We're gonna figure out something for you as well.
Yes, we'll find you. We will lanyard you.
Oh, Buttery just posted, I hate myself, but not as much. I'd rather implement it in COBOL. I just built shelves here in the office and brought in a bunch of my old books, and one of the books I brought in was my old college COBOL textbook. And I'm looking, I'm like, holy crap! I probably could throw this away. Nah, I'm gonna keep it. I got a COBOL textbook over in our conference room here. So I'm with you, Buttery.
My prize book is my basic reference book.
Your basic reference?
Yeah, to the basic programming language. That's how I taught myself programming back when I was 10, 11 years old, is just flipping through this reference book, finding a new command, like reading it, and like, oh, this is how this works. Let me go try it in an app.
Mm.
Or, a little basic program. And I still have that somewhere out in my garage.
Yeah, bring it in, man. We have bookshelves now. All right, is that it? Are we done?
Yes.
Episode 144 in the can?
You don't want to cover your cold wallets thing? I heard about this, but
that's been up for a couple of weeks. We can talk about it next week, maybe. That's old. It's old news now. I actually added it March 2nd.
All right.
We'll talk about it next week.
Yeah.
All righty.
Up nice and early.
Yeah. Are we sticking to this new time?
I would like to if we can.
I suppose so. We actually didn't mention it on the podcast. We're recording an hour earlier than normal because John has some kind of sleeping problem.
He's a princess. He needs.
I
princess.
just started waking up earlier, so I'd like to get to bed before 1 o'clock.
Whatever. All right. All right, that's gonna be it. We're done. Episode 144 in the can. I'm your host, Eric Van Johnson.
I'm John Congdon.
I'm Tom Rideout.
Keep it on the counting down.
Ugly.
Keep it ugly. I like making it weird at the end.
There's nothing John can't step on.
No, he doesn't talk the whole show, and then he just starts, tumbling all over everybody.
One of you always starts counting down. And
we need to get John to do edit the freaking thing, man.
I've done nothing in my life.
He skates by. He does 2 podcasts with me, and he skates by not editing any of them. You're on my radar, Congdon. I'm watching you, man.
I thought I made it very clear before we ever even started this that I'd rather not do the podcast than edit it.
You did. No, that's credit where due.
I'm getting another tattoo, man. Where should I get a tattoo at?
Face.
I'm getting another tattoo. Maybe
get DiegoDev right on the forehead, just like that guy who did the online casino on his forehead.
Just right
Remember
there,
the 90s?
right there, my jaw. Little DD right there. What's up?
What do you want to get and why?
I'm getting a bug and a duck. A bug and a duck, because those are the nicknames of my children, Bug and Duck. And now that they're turning 21,
never heard that.
Yeah. And now that they're turning 21, I want to capture that somewhere. I don't know. I'm thinking about getting it over my heart. I don't know. A little Bug and Duck over my heart.
Bug and Duck. Which one's which?
Let me see if I can remember.
Emily's Bug.
Is Emily
I've
Bug?
heard you call her that.
Okay, that might be right. It was so random because one of them started calling the other one Duck. It must have been Emily calling Alyssa Duck, and she just started calling her Duck for whatever reason. I mean, it was back when their vocabulary was like 10 words, and she just started calling her Duck, and it was infuriating her sister. And so her response to her was Bug. And so they just started calling each other Duck and Bug. It's like, what? Why are you guys calling each other?
Years?
Huh?
It's 21 years?
Yeah, yeah. And it's like, why are you guys calling each other that? It's a very you have to be part of the very inner circle to know that one. They don't their formal nicknames are Milo, which is what Emily goes by, and I guess Al would be Alyssa's, but yeah, if you really know them, they're Doug and Buck, or they'll say Duck and Bug.
Doug and Buck.
Doug and Buck, yeah. So I'll
Do you
probably
guys follow the college admission scandal at all?
very little. There's been a couple people here in San Diego that got wrapped up in that, like an old news anchor.
USC was one of the big places where people were doing it.
Yeah,
I'm hoping I don't get caught up in that.
You what?
But I hope I don't get caught up in that.
The big thing I saw was people talking about a woman who was in jail for 5 years because she lied about what district she lived in so that her kids could go to the affluent white school.
Mm.
And they're like, yeah, most of the headlines I see are in a surprise to no one, the system works exactly the way you think.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying the memes coming out of it. The one of the ladies from not Full House, but I don't know, a lot of famous people.
Like I said, they got some news reporter here in San Diego that. What was funny is they were talking about her children's admissions paper, and they're like, yes, it said her son was in track and field, and there's no record indicating he ever played track and field. I'm like, really? What? Everybody lies on applications. God, man, I hope nobody
this was
asked
further
me if
than
I
that.
know Ruby.
This was like submitting Photoshop pictures and fake transcripts, and then they have a recording of one of the women talking to the guy who ran the whole thing, saying, so my smarter daughter is wondering why she had to take the ACT in 5 hours, but her sister had 5 days to do it. How do I explain that to her? And she's catching on. I think she understands what's happening. How do we get away with lying to her about what happened so that she doesn't know that her sister was paid into the system and she wasn't? Like super, super scumbaggy stuff.
Mm.
One of them is William H. Macy's wife.
Yeah. Yep, rich people doing rich people things with their money,
Yeah, I mean, I like the headline is the system works exactly the way you think it does.
All right.
All right, let's I gotta let John get his beauty sleep.
God, do we ever? The guy's wasted away. You need to see this guy, Thomas. He's like half the man he ever used to be. It's horrifying.
Thank you. I think
He's like a vegan CrossFit racquetball.
Yeah, now he's doing rock climbing, yoga, doing self enemas. I mean, he's doing it all. The good thing is I'm waiting for him to get back on pot because that's the next logical step for his hippie life.
Grow out the dreads.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah, your wife would love that.
I'm gonna ask her.
My daughter wanted dreads. I told her she doesn't have the commitment for it.
You need to talk faster, man. That's right. Every time John tries to start talking, he gets talked over.
That's fine. I don't say anything interesting anyway. I just like listening to you guys. All right.
Yeah. All right.
I will try to get this edited as sooner rather than later.
Oh yeah, let me add this to Dropbox now before I leave for the day because I ain't coming back. All right, you guys take it easy.
All right, good night.
Good night. Good night, everybody watching on the stream. Appreciate you as always. I guess I forgot to throw. I had the Patreon up there for a while.
Yep. Bye,
All
everyone.
right. Bye, everybody.